Hello, I'm Morgan Peckma, and this is City and State TV. Today we are in the offices of the New York Cosmos with the Chief Operating Officer of the Cosmos, Eric Stover. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
In 2011, Mayor Bloomberg took the Cosmos around to a number of different sites around the city, but you seem to have settled on Elmont. Why did you choose Elmont in Belmont Park?
Well, we think it's a wonderful site. First, it's right on the border of Queens and Long Island. 3 million people in Long Island, 2 million or so in Queens. You know, it's a hotbed of soccer. Both counties are in Nassau, Suffolk, and Queens. It's probably the most popular sport on the ground. You go to any park on a weekend and everybody's playing soccer. So it makes the most sense for us. It was an RFP that the state was putting out, so it's easy for us to reply to that. I think it smooths the runway for development should we be selected as bidder. So I think it makes a lot of sense for us.
And you've bid for a $400 million stadium complex that would straddle the border of Queens and Nassau County. What is the status of your RFP in Albany right now?
Well, we submitted a bid that we're very confident is the best, and we're waiting for the ESDC to choose a preferred bidder, and ultimately for Albany to make a decision on who that preferred bidder is. We're very confident that we've put the best bid forward. It's the largest economic impact. It's mixed-use development, hotel, restaurants, retail, and a stadium, and a public park. It's the most jobs, it's the most construction jobs, it's probably the longest construction development of any of the other bidders. It has the most sustainable impact, we believe, of any of the other bidders, and we think it supports the racing industry the most, better than, you know, a big box strip mall, which we think is the other three competitors. So we think we check all the boxes for the state, and we just remain optimistic that we'll get good news soon.
And what has been the response from elected officials in the legislature and other elected officials in the area?
Well, certainly we've had tremendous support locally. Senator Jack Martins, County Executive Ed Mangano have been big vocal supporters for us. And we've very quietly have gotten a lot of letters of support from both Nassau and Queens elected officials. Over 20 different elected officials have written letters to the ESDC supporting our project. They see the job creation, they see the economic impact, so we have broad support across both of the aisles.
And would this be a year-round facility? I mean, what would be some of the, beyond Cosmos games? I mean, right now you play in Hofstra University in Hempstead. You know, what would be some of the other uses of the stadium?
Well, for the stadium, we would expect 35 to 40 major ticketed events, whether it's Cosmos matches, international soccer matches, you know, bringing huge clubs over like Manchester United, Real Madrid, Arsenal to play in our stadium, rugby events, you know, a lot of different sporting events. We'd use it on dark days for commercial shoots and corporate hospitality and all types of things. But I think the most important thing to remember is it's a piece of a much bigger puzzle, you know, with the hotels, the restaurants, the retail. It's something that will sustain the economy 365 days out of the year.
With the Cosmos, you have such an iconic brand, with Pele having played in the original Cosmos. I mean, I think it's probably the best known soccer team around the world, at least of an American soccer team. And yet you are playing in the North American Soccer League, which is kind of the second tier compared to Major League Soccer. I mean, how much is the emphasis for you on the strength of the Cosmos brand?
Well, we look at ourselves as a strong club. It's a grassroots organization, and we think the best way to build a club is to build locally, be connected to the community. And we think if we're successful with that, we follow the same path that the original Cosmos did. You know, in the early 70s, they were playing at Hofstra, and within 5-6 years, they're at Giant Stadium with 75,000 people. If we follow that formula, focus grassroots, not only will we help grow the club back to the level that everybody around the world recognizes, but also will help grow the NASL into a league that can be every bit as strong as MLS.
So your aim is not to join the MLS as an expansion team?
Right now, no. Certainly, we are 100% focused on the Cosmos, and we're focused on the NESL, and we think that there is opportunity in this country to have two successful leagues. There is no promotion and relegation, so there's a system here that's different than the rest of the world. We think our more free market system of the NESL versus a single entity structure that MLS is will allow us to compete globally better, certainly in a shorter amount of time.
Now, the Cosmos have been around for several years now, trying to find a permanent home either in the city. But then the New York City Football Club emerged and is eyeing building a stadium in Flushing Meadows Corona Park, which is only just a few miles away from your location. How has that impacted the calculus of what you're trying to do?
Well, first, we welcome the competition to New York. I think it's great. We're already seeing benefits of that. Is New York red? Is New York blue? Is New York green? And people are talking about it. And I think that's what soccer has needed in this market for many years. So I think that's great. I think the second thing is the Manchester City club isn't necessarily going to Corona Park. In fact, their focus appears to be in the Bronx near Yankee Stadium. That's really for them to decide. We're confident that our location is good, that there are loads of soccer fans there that are going to support the Cosmos, and we've had a good start so far.
A lot has been made of the ownership of the NYCFC. What is the ownership of the Cosmos?
Well, our managing partner, our principal owner, is Seamus O'Brien. Seamus has made his wealth in this business. He started World Sport Group from really nothing, working in Asia in building up sports properties, whether it's Asian soccer or golf properties or a myriad of different opportunities over the last 20 years. And so to have Seamus as a principal owner with his wealth of experience, his connections, a guy that owns a team that made his career in this business is rare. You see a lot of ownership around the world where they come into it later, they develop wealth somewhere else, and they buy a team almost, some fans will say as a hobby. This is Seamus's lifeblood, so we're very lucky to have him.
You were the managing director of the Red Bulls before coming to the Cosmos. I mean, how much is that an element of competition too? So, I mean, you're looking at not just two teams, but three teams, right, foreseeably in the metropolitan area.
Yeah, well, I think, as I mentioned before, we seem to be falling into different parts of the metro area. You've got Red Bull that's in New Jersey, and the vast majority of their ticket buyers are coming from New Jersey. It looks like Manchester City's club will end up in the Bronx area, and we're on the border of Queens and Long Island. So I think certainly there are enough people in this market. It is a sport that's growing and people are passionate about it, and the competition will raise awareness and raise attention for soccer fans.
I mean, the original Cosmos, weren't able to sustain the level of fan interest to endure. I mean, do you think that we're just looking at a radically different consumer environment now that could sustain not just one, but three teams?
Absolutely. When the Cosmos were at their peak in the late 70s, here's a good example. The Long Island Junior Soccer League is the largest youth soccer organization in the country. They didn't exist when the Cosmos were at their peak. But off the back of the Cosmos, the youth infrastructure started to build up around the country. And that's why you see such huge, wonderful success stories in Seattle and Portland and Kansas City, because the infrastructure is there now, whether it's youth soccer or stadiums that are being built or media support. All of those things are much stronger than they were in the late 70s, where the NESL sort of caught lightning in a bottle but wasn't able to sustain it when things started to dip.
What was the average attendance that you saw last season?
The average attendance was around 7,000, I believe. It was a good start. I think we can do better. We're off to a good start for this year. We'll see how it goes. It will always be a top priority for us. We have to win, and we have to put people in the seats. So I think we're going to do well again this year.
And you did win last year, right? You were the league champions. How can you top that this year? What are your expectations?
Well, I guess when you're trying to defend a championship, it's always harder. We were able to keep our core group of very good players together. We brought in a couple new guys that we think will make us even stronger. So our first goal is to go out and repeat as champions. We also have the opportunity to play in the U.S. Open Cup for the first time, and that will put us against all tiers of soccer in the United States, and hopefully we can advance and get into playing MLS teams and show people that we have a good side, and God willing, we'll advance far.
The Major League Soccer has been successful in drawing very prominent players from Europe who are at later stages in their career. I mean, what is the draw for top players to come to the North American Soccer League?
Well, we've seen it already. We've attracted top players. We're in discussions with other top players. You know, Marco Senna is arguably one of the top 5 holding midfielders of the last 10 years, captain of the Spanish national team. So we've been already able to attract players. We're seeing teams in our league like Tampa, Indianapolis, Minnesota are starting to open up the checkbook a little more and attract higher level talent. So I don't think it's an obstacle, particularly if you're talking about world players. They see the United States as an opportunity as a whole. And if it's MLS or NASL, I think it really is going to come down to the ownership group and the opportunity that particular player has.
Obviously, soccer is the most popular sport in the world. How many soccer fans do you estimate there are in the United States?
A lot. It's the #1 participation sport for boys and girls in the United States. It's the #1 sport, I believe, for 12 to 19-year-olds right now in the United States. And I think the challenge we have is maintaining their support through as they get older. I think we're probably past that now. I think the 19-year-old now is still going to be a fan of soccer when he's 35, 45, whatever. But I think it's getting greater control of the market. That 19-year-old might be a soccer fan, but he might be a Chelsea fan or an Arsenal fan or an AS Roma fan first and foremost. We need those kids to be fans of US-based clubs. And I think that's our big challenge. And if we do it right, not only will we capture the market, but I think we'll be bringing top-tier talent to play in this country sooner.
Of the major American professional sports, really the only other one that has a strong following among players among women is basketball. I mean, how much is it important to your market that young women across the country have such an interest in soccer?
It's very important. I think sometime in the near future you'll see us with a professional women's team, hopefully within a couple years. Again, I mentioned the Long Island Junior Soccer League before. Of the 60,000 kids playing, about half are girls. So it's obviously a big market. When you come to our stadium on match day, it's very diverse. You see young girls and mothers. You see youth soccer players, boys, Hispanics, Asians. So, you know, it's a melting pot in our stadium, just as this market is a melting pot.
Do you have a sense of when you're going to hear from the state on your RFP?
No, I'm not sure. We're just remaining patient and optimistic.
Eric Stover, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of City and State TV. For more episodes, please join us on the web at cityandstateny.com.